Hey, Brandon.
Oh, hey, Hannah, this looks familiar.
I know, right? Kinda. It looks a little bit different behind me.
A little bit different. Hey, y'all, what's up? Welcome to
So,
GhostWritten. You might have forgotten about us. Uh, it's been a while.
it's been a while. I
You're,
apologize. Moving is literal hell.
he's had a rough time.
God, it sucks. I'm so over it. And so now I have like all this junk behind me.
Don't worry, before too long, it's going to turn into a cute little podcasting den.
Yeah, it is. So excited.
So excited.
So I'm basically in the exact same room. So Brandon and I live probably like 3 buildings away from each other. We're doing this through Zoom today. It's fine. But I'm basically in the exact same room that Brandon is in right now, but opposite.
Yeah. Also, here's the thing. We're doing it through Zoom, one, because we can. And it's what we're used to, and it's easy. And two, we haven't gotten a viable setup yet to know how to do everything in person, because as much as I love having Hannah sit next to me, like, she needs to have her own mic. We need to figure out how to set everything up. Like, we got
doesn't want to sit so close to me.
No, it's not even that. It's like you have to be like right up on it, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's fine.
um
It's fine.
so having said that, it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Sorry. So sorry.
We missed you guys.
We did.
And you know, you could be happy now that your favorite podcast is back. I don't know what podcast that is, but we're back. So
Shit, Brayden.
yeah.
Listen, I've been listening to a lot of Morbid.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I'm at the point where like COVID's about to happen and they just started doing live shows and they're talking about all these live shows. And I'm like, oh no, this is gonna go bad.
No.
Like, I'm just waiting for them to be like, COVID happened, all of our shows are canceled.
Live shows that never happened.
Yeah. So like, I'm just waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. I also started a really fucked up podcast that's a horror fiction podcast called Darkest Night.
Ooh. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, so it's based around this like research facility and a project called Project Cyclops, where they pull the eyes out of people's heads, pull fluid out of them, and put it into this box, and it shows them the last things that they saw before they die. And it is fucked up.
Holy shit.
Like, I love horror fiction podcasts. Most of them, I'm like, this is fun. And these, I'm like, oh my God, what the hell just happened?
So is it actually scary?
Yes. And upsetting. I was trying to tell one of my, so it's also one of those that's recorded to where if you're wearing headphones, it sounds like people are in different positions around you.
See.
Which is fucking awesome. But it's really weird when you're working by yourself and it sounds like there's somebody behind you because it's the sound of them like working too. So I'm like swinging my head around looking for people. But it's upsetting and it's really good. So
it sounds interesting.
There's some visceral sounds. I was telling one of my friends about it, but she's recently had babies. So I'm like, don't listen to this episode or this episode.
Oh man. Yeah,
it's super fucking good. Darkest Night.
It sounds good. I feel like I haven't really watched anything too spooky recently. Wait a second. I feel like maybe I did watch a horror movie the other day and I've just forgotten about it.
I've been watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Does that count?
Oh, nice. No, doesn't count, but I've heard it's a good show.
Fucking hilarious.
I mean, I've been watching The Walking Dead, but at this point, is it really even about zombies?
we haven't watched that in forever. Like at one point, something stupid happened, and we were watching it with friends, and we just stopped watching it.
It's so much different than the original like premise of the show, that it's kind of like
It's
become
about the
something
people and
else.
not about the zombies.
Well, I mean, it's essentially always been that, but it's, it's becoming a lot more political in a way. And like,
Mm.
I like it when they were really creative with the problems they were having to figure out, right? Like,
Yeah.
they were like, okay, we got a good grip on how to take care of zombies. And then all of a sudden they had to deal with these herds, like these giant groups of zombies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what do you do? And obviously they figured it out, but that was the scary part was, all of a sudden, what do you do? But it seems like the last few seasons, it's always just been a new group of like crazy people,
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I get that probably would happen, but it's
The
kind
weirdos
of
are definitely
boring.
the ones that would survive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, other than that, I mean, listen, guys, everybody's having a rough time right now. There's a lot of wild shit going on in the world.
Right.
But Hannah and I kind of made a decision earlier on this year that we're going to do the podcast as often as we can because we like doing it. We like interacting with everyone, but we also are going to be mindful of like when we need a break and when we don't need to push ourselves to get it done, because I feel like we're both on the same page with like, we do it because we want to do it. If it gets to the point where it feels like a requirement, we might, who's to say
it's not
that
something we'd want to do anymore.
yeah, exactly. Who's to say that we wouldn't be like, fuck the podcast?
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah, this is something that we do in our free time, and it's because we enjoy it and we really like to spend this time together and put our ridiculousness out into the world. But yeah, so we're definitely going to be a lot more lenient with ourselves this year. I apologize for skipped episodes, but mental health is a big thing for us. The last few years have been awful, and we don't need to impose any more stress onto ourselves than there already is. So we're going to do what we can. We're going to get out as many episodes as we can. We're also going to take care of ourselves, though, and you guys should too.
Absolutely. Everyone should. And like, that's part of what we're here for. We want to be that distraction. We want to be a source of entertainment and whimsy and whatnot. I will say,
the Ghost Podcast. Whimsy.
Listen, we've said before, there's a lot of really brooding, serious, like paranormal type stuff. We don't need to be that.
This is something we do for fun.
Exactly. I will say though, even with not having posted anything in 2 weeks, Facebook has been blowing up. So
yeah, right.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome to the new listeners.
Yeah, welcome.
We don't know where you came from, but hi.
Yeah, and we appreciate anybody that has like gotten on there and shared us with their friends and stuff, because like we've said before, ultimately we do want to reach more people. I mean, you don't do something like this because you don't want people to listen to you. Right. So yeah. Yeah.
Hey guys. And in the interest of interacting with our listeners on Facebook, the things that I'm talking about today are because of a Facebook post.
Hell yeah.
Woo woo.
Hell yeah.
So we're actually going to do a couple of things. We've got a listener story too, and we'll get to that one after these stories. Let's kind of see how long this takes. But I made a post the other day about beasts in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. Well, it's I say the other day, but it's been a couple of weeks. But it was like beasts of land between the lakes, the Hopkinsville goblins, which we've discussed. Mm-hmm. There's apparently a lizard man. Something about little people. Mm-hmm. Bigfoot, Milton lizard, Pope Lick monster, demon leaper, beast of Bullitt County, devil monkeys, Appalachian black panther, which I'm guessing is probably the Wampus cat. Don't know why they call it that.
Yeah.
There's a grave digger, Harry the Harrington Lake monster, the Calk Lake monster, Bearzilla, Mothman, and meth hogs.
Bradley actually told me once about the Harrington Lake monster because we drive by there when we go to visit his family in Danville. So
Really?
yeah.
Well, we're talking about the Harrington Lake monster today, so maybe you could put
nice
with your husband's local view.
Awesome.
By the way, meth hogs are exactly what you think they are. They're wild hogs that got into some meth. Not even a joke.
I saw that post you were talking about, and that was the thing that caught my eye. Was the meth hogs.
Meth hogs. Yeah, I looked it up and I was like, oh my god, it's exactly what I thought it was. Freaking hogs. Hogs get into some meth. Don't do meth.
I was this close to doing an episode about it, and I was like, I know we like to get off track sometimes, but meth hogs really have nothing to do with.
No, I was like, I don't think that's even like a cryptid. That's just some really fucked up shit from Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, maybe we'll add that in as a new segment on the Patreon. It's like just shit we want to talk about, like
meth hogs.
Who knows? Methanie's corner.
Shit. Methanie's corner. What the fuck, Brandon?
I don't know.
Oh god. But somebody on there had mentioned that they were from the area and they'd never heard of devil monkeys. And I was like, well, we need to do some research on that. And I was like, fuck it, let's do an episode.
Nice.
So they're all kind of short, so I did a few.
Okay.
Yet again, meth hogs on meth. It's fucked up. We'll start with devil monkeys because our lovely listener was curious. There's apparently a lot of controversy over the subject of devil monkeys. For one, quite a few researchers here in the state dismissed the idea. The two are so few reported that there are so many few reports on them.
Mm-hmm.
Devil monkeys, from their description, stand 6 to 7 feet tall, covered with hair, and walk bipedal just like a man. Their face resembles that of a monkey with fangs and a bushy tail, and are extremely violent in nature. Their first report was in 1945 from Paintsville, Kentucky, where a fisherman who was cleaning catfish was attacked and mauled by a man-sized creature which resembled a monkey.
Ooh.
It then fled with his catfish back into the woods.
So he got mugged.
He got mugged for his catfish by a giant monkey.
That's great.
In 1978, an Albany farmer, Charlie Stern, witnessed a man-sized creature with a monkey and man face and a bushy tail kill one of his livestock. Mr. Stern fired several gunshots at the creature before it ran off. Later that year, several witnessed it in Trimble County, Kentucky, west of the city Milton. They observed 3 man-sized monkey creatures ranging in size of 6 to 7 feet, walking adjacent of the Ohio River in a tobacco field. They reported that the larger one of the 3 became violent when approached, snarling and growling, holding its ground until the other 2 were a safe distance away as it fled. Family. Devil monkey family. They were reported to have an ape-human face and a bushy tail. There are several reports of ape-like creatures from Canada and throughout the United States of America.
I'm imagining like big baboons.
Yeah, that's what it just said. It said that they kind of describe them with barrel chests and baboon or dog-like faces, with footprints 11 to 16 inches long and having 3 toes.
Jesus Christ.
Most of these 3-toed creatures are found deep in the southern United States, but recently here in the Bluegrass area between Carrollton and Easterday, Kentucky.
Do you ever think that maybe some of the weird cryptid, like chimera type things that we have legends of were just like aliens fucking around?
God, if you were an alien, wouldn't you fuck around with people?
Right. But you know what I mean? Like they took some DNA samples and they like mixed it all up and they created some abomination and they were just like, let's see what it does.
I mean, might as well. It's like that really messed up episode of that one anime, the dog.
Oh God, Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yep.
This is supposed to be a podcast full of whimsy, Hannah. Let's not bring up.
Tyler made me watch that episode. Now I was like, I'm never watching this show ever again. He was like, this is literally the worst episode. I was like, I don't care.
The show's amazing, but yeah, that's
nope. I refuse. I cannot. Don't make chimeras with your children, people.
Please.
Ugh, it's fucked up. So yeah, those are devil monkeys. Apparently they're not super popular. There's not a ton of sightings. Even though they're gigantic monkey people.
Right, like
don't want to fight. Which makes sense for Kentucky, let's be fair.
Absolutely. Maybe they're on meth too.
It's possible. Maybe the meth hogs are their hogs.
Hey. Maybe they hunt the meth hogs and then ingest them and then get secondhand high.
Secondhand meth high.
Yeah.
We should start a counter for this episode and how many times we say meth.
Whatever. Sorry, I had to cough. Whenever I go to post the episode this time and it asks if it's explicit, I'm gonna click it really hard.
click it off and click it again.
Yeah.
Extra. Lots of mention of meth. So the next one that I was interested in, it took me a minute to find anything about it, are the Appalachian grave robbers.
Okay.
Mostly because you research grave robber, like it's not a creature that shows up.
Right.
So grave robbers are a small critter almost lost to history. This is from Cryptid Studies Institute, by the way. They're an animal allegedly sighted by many people in the Appalachian community. Not much is known about them, as most tales have been handed down from oral family tradition. They're described as a mix between an anteater and a weasel. Ooh. They dig down into the graves of the recently deceased and presumably devour the corpse. This is the reason why many graveyards have small grave houses or coverings erected over the top of the grave to protect it from the grave robber. One quote from Thomas Clark in 1941 book, The Kentucky, says, "A faithful servant of the community was consigned to the earthly bosom of the hill country. A grave house was erected over the mound. These little houses protected the grave from both the elements and the fiendish ghoul, the grave robber. Many Kentucky mountain people still believe that there is an animal resembling, so it's said, a cross between a slender weasel and an anteater. This thieving varmint, according to the Highland legend, digs into the grave and destroys the body. Likewise, the grave house is a mark of profound respect and enduring love."
Can I just say, varmint is number one of my favorite words. And number two, I had a friend back in college. She's one of my best friends who was from Barberville, and that was one of their cryptids down there was the varmint.
The varmint?
Yeah, and it was kind of similar to Wampus Cat, like the way it was described. She would tell stories of her like grandpa talking about like they heard some kind of noise and they went into a bedroom where his little brother was sleeping in the crib, and there was this big cat like with its head down in the crib smelling him, and it was the varmint. Yeah,
that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one thing about seeing cryptids like out in the woods. There's another thing about getting in your fucking house, sniffing your babies.
Yeah, and like I'm sure like trying to assess whether or not this is going to be a filling meal or not. Yeah.
Babies probably not so much. Very tender though.
Oh,
haven't had time for the world to beat them down, Brandon.
God, I love you. Okay.
Yeah.
So grave robber.
They sound kind of cute.
A little bit. but
it's kind of
also
like somebody just took the idea of like human grave robbers and were like, I bet it's just a little creature.
I bet some real life grave robbers were like, no, man, there's these little things that just like go in there and it's crazy.
Probably. Stoner grave robbers, apparently.
Yeah.
Talked a lot of the wacky tobacco.
Okay, hold on. This is actually how it went. I don't know, brother. We just went in there and saw a bunch of holes in the ground and didn't know what was going on.
Oh Lord.
They ate the whole body, all the jewelry and everything.
It's just gone.
I don't know where it went. It's plumb crazy.
That is the more likely situation. For sure.
Yeah. They're like, tell the truth, Daryl. That's not what happened.
Oh Lord. Listen, we love our state and our people and their accents. We just make fun of them a little bit. It's fun.
We're allowed to.
Listen, I love translating hillbilly for people.
You said 9 earlier.
Did I?
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of working in healthcare, is being the only one that can understand half the people.
Yeah. It is funny though. You don't think about it, like especially my European friends, like if I play something where someone has a really thick Appalachian accent, they really don't know what they're saying. And I'm just because it's peppered in with not only accents, but what's it called? Colloquialisms and
a lot
slang.
of colloquialisms.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not always easy to decipher. Even if you know what words they're saying. It's like
there's also some mumbling in there too.
Yeah.
It's just what they do. It's fun. It's fun. Okay, one more monster, and then we'll go to our listener story.
Ooh.
We're going to the Lake Harrington monster.
Yes.
It's also known as the eel pig. It's a monster in Harrington Lake, Kentucky.
That's what they called me in high school.
Brandon. Sounds like a really fucked up story that I'm going to need to know.
GhostWritten After Dark.
Okay, the Lake Harrington monster has a body of an eel and possesses a pig-like snout. It has a somewhat curly tail and a skin tone / pattern of a speckled fish. It's 12 to 15 feet long and is said to be as fast as a boat.
Holy shit.
This thing has, like, in one description, it was like, it has the tail of a pig. And all I could think of was like a whole ass big eel and then all this like teeny tiny little curly cute pigtail on the end.
I'm having a hard time even imagining it, because naturally what I want to think of is like Nessie, but
no, it's just like long big eel with a fucking pig nose.
Corkscrew tail.
So like my nose
on
an eel.
Shut the fuck up.
With the pigtail.
Right.
I can't get over the idea of it having like a teeny tiny little corkscrew tail on the end.
Yeah. And also spotted like a fish.
Yeah. And people just thought it was an eel or there was a monster because somebody keeps throwing their pigs in the water and you just see the tail as it goes down.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay. Oh, my phone went dark. Okay. Since Lake Harrington's completion in 1925, there have been reports of the eel pig within the lake.
The eel pig.
The eel pig. In 1972, University of Kentucky professor Lawrence S. Thompson reported that he had seen the creature swimming in the lake multiple times. However, after his many sightings, he was unable to identify what it was. He was later interviewed by newspaper The Louisville Courier, When asked whether he truly believed he had seen a real monster, he stated, "It's only a monster in the sense that one would call an alligator a monster if they had ever seen one, if they'd never seen one before."
Oh, okay.
Listen, friend of the cryptids, right there.
Okay, Mr. Fun Killer.
Since then, sightings of the monster are said to have continued, but none have been reported on as extensively as Thompson's. There have been many theories surrounding the Lake Harrington monster. It may have been a misidentification of alligator gar or other fish species. Alligator gar are fucking terrifying.
Yeah, honestly, that makes sense.
Yeah, because like big.
Yeah. Yeah, and they kind of look like really nasty pike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, that freaking show Lake Monsters or River Monsters or whatever it was, I used to watch the shit out of that.
I don't see how anyone would get pig snout though from a...
I mean, it's got kind of like a blunted...
I mean, it's pretty long. I mean, maybe if it was one that was like deformed, it definitely doesn't have a corkscrew tail. So listen, man, aliens.
Jesus. Harrington Lake is a popular fishing spot and contains many species of fish in its water. Another theory is that it may have been an out-of-place alligator that traveled up the Mississippi River, down the Kentucky River, and into Harrington Lake. There are theories that it was a prehistoric animal that lived in underground limestone caves that became flooded when the lake was being constructed.
Seems plausible.
Plausible. Listen, guys. We have... We're going to go over Mammoth Cave sometime.
Yeah.
Kentucky is absolutely littered with cave systems. Like, it's freaking everywhere. And they're absolutely insane. And I think I've shared the meme before, but they're talking about how the cave system in Kentucky is literally older than bones.
Yeah.
They found places where there were no fossils, which means that it's old enough to where there was nothing ever alive in it.
Right. The caves were there before there were things to live in it.
Yeah. Absolutely terrifying. Fuck caves. But those are my creatures. I thought we'd get some explanation for a couple of them because we needed them. There's also a thing about Kentucky hellhounds. But I've read that those were probably just a tale that moonshiners would tell to keep people away from their stills.
Didn't we do an episode about hellhounds back in the day?
Maybe. It's sometimes I have to go back and look at our old episodes to make sure I don't repeat things.
I feel like we did. Maybe it's when I talked about the hell holes. Maybe.
Portals to hell, Brandon.
Oh.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, the thing is, though, I feel like growing up, stories of cryptids, but I mean, you think about them as cryptids, were so common, and I'm sure a lot of it is like stories that grew over time to the point where they were just inflated beyond all, hint of truth. But it's just as likely that some of them were true. So
yeah. And like that one was talking about, there's not a lot of evidence because it was just passed down
right
from family to family. And that's what's happened a lot with a lot of lore from Appalachia and the South in general, just because nobody wrote it down.
Yep. Nobody writes anything down.
It's just what we talked about at the end of the day.
Or something was written down and then lost, or
yeah,
kept
in the family Bible.
And then the house flooded, or you know what I'm saying? Like, So what's our listener story, Hannah?
So I think this is someone you know.
Is it
I believe so.
Larissa?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Did you read this that she sent us?
I did. Shout out, Larissa. Hope you're doing well. Larissa is the sister of my ex-boyfriend, who I'm still really good friends with.
Oh,
So
hi, Larissa.
yeah, I met her when she was just a wee little lass.
Wee babe.
Mm-hmm.
Cute. Okay. So Larissa sends, for the last 12 years, she didn't write I just can't talk. Since for the last 12 years, did not write for the last 12 years. Jesus Christ, let's restart.
Okay.
Rewind, we're good. Brain is working now. Got it. Got it. So for 12 years growing up, my family lived in rural Russell County, Virginia. Brandon, you been right next to a graveyard. I'm talking 20 feet from the house, basically.
Mm-hmm.
We had moved there in 1999. Now, my immediate family was my mom, me, my two brothers, my older sister, and after 2007, my younger sister. There were a lot of stories surrounding apparitions appearing to my twin brother even before we moved to Virginia. Oh. But after we moved next to the graveyard, things got spookier. The house had previously been lived in by the current owner's brother, and he had died of a heart attack at the kitchen table, falling over and breaking the arm of the chair. We still use the table and those chairs when we lived there.
Okay. That's nice to know. I sat at that table.
So for the first several years, clocks would spin, doors would open, that sort of thing. Even to the point where the clocks would change and all four of us kids would be up and dressed and ready for school bus at the end of the driveway in the middle of the night. The way my mom tells it, she just finally spoke to this man and said, "Hey, you can mess with me, but don't mess with my kids." And after that, the clock stopped turning.
I could
Listen,
a
as
million
someone who used to
percent.
sleepwalk, I have legitimately gotten up in the middle of the night and gotten ready.
I can 1,000,000% see their mom doing that. Yeah.
Being like, cut the shit, buddy.
Yeah, she's like, listen. She got a cigarette. Cut the shit.
Very Appalachian.
Yeah.
But one night when I was around 9 or 10, my brother and his friends and I were ghost hunting in the graveyard. Like you do. Honestly, a bad idea. I was pretty skeptical, but we had a camera and we're trying to capture orbs. Now, the neighbor across the street had died maybe a couple weeks before this and was buried in the graveyard. For what fucking reason, I do not know. It was a family cemetery and she wasn't family, but whatever. I simply looked at her grave and said, I don't know if I believe any of this can be real. So we went home, all 20 feet to the house, and everything was fine. I have a pretty severe fear of the dark, and I do okay when I'm with someone. But even as a skeptic, I was pretty spooked. So I was lying on the bottom of the bunk bed I shared with my brother with the lights on. No shit. My eyes were closed and I wasn't necessarily dozing, but I was trying to exist. And the bed started to shake. I thought it was my brother adjusting in bed, so I let it go. Then it shakes again and I yell, "Logan, stop shaking the bed." Silence. I think everything is fine until I literally get slapped across my face. And I mean slapped. I bolt upright and no one is there. Lights still on, no one around. I start screaming bloody murder for my brother, who comes running from the other end of the house. We slept in the living room that night.
Damn.
But yeah, my family had a lot of stories like that from the years, from my great aunt appearing to my 3-year-old brother the night she died, before any of us had heard anything, from my grandmother appearing in golden light after she died. All kinds of shit. Oh, it says, I think it would be cool if Brandon told my story because he's been in my old house. Sorry, Larissa.
It's fine.
Love the podcast. Keep it up.
Oh,
On a
that's
side note,
awesome.
we did capture orbs that night, and my mom still has some of the pictures.
Well, I will add some of my own experiences there. I never, I'll put it this way, I never experienced anything outright, you know, spooky like that. But especially in that time of my life, I was like 18, 19. And one time I stayed down there with them for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And there was one night in particular where they had a bonfire in the backyard, which is right next to that graveyard. And that, that might explain the kind of vibe in the air that night. But uh I mean, it's like any place that you're going through mountains, like where they lived was like, if I'm remembering correctly, was like on the side of a hill. And there's just like there's like stuff looming around. You know what I mean? Like when you go into
Yeah.
a hall or something, there's a certain aspect of it that feels claustrophobic
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
like you're like being pushed in on from either side.
Yeah, you're completely surrounded by land and trees, and it's a very overwhelming feeling.
But yeah, but I mean, like I said, I never experienced anything there, but I'm absolutely not surprised at all to hear about that. Um, you that
Hanging out at that dead gas table.
that place, that was one of those places that feels lived in. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like we've talked about before, like that energy that people put out when they're like in a space. I feel like it was, that place very much felt like life had happened there, and death too, apparently.
Which is not a bad thing.
Not at all.
Well,
But
thank
yeah,
you, Larissa. I'm sorry it took us so long to read it. We were
yeah,
waiting for a
sorry.
couple more, and we figured where we had been out for a little bit, we would make the episode a little bit longer and get through a listener story too.
Yeah. And I think we do have another listener story. We were just trying to make it more of like an event.
Yeah.
Because everyone loves our listener stories episodes. They're like our most popular episodes, but nobody
But you
wants to
have to
send us
send
their
us more.
stories. So
Send us your stories.
yes.
It
And
doesn't even have to specifically be ghosts, just some weird shit that happened to you,
or something
you couldn't explain.
yeah, something interesting, something maybe some kind of family thing that was unsolved or
Yeah.
mysterious,
Someplace you've been that was really cool and
yeah.
weird.
But
Tell us about
definitely
that.
send us your stories. You can send them to us via email, and that's ghostwrittenpodcast@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and that's at ghostwrittenpod. Also, as mentioned previously, we do have a Patreon that we post some bonus content on. We got plans for Patreon. When it gets to a point where it can kind of sustain itself, we want to do more things with it. And that, as we've said before, like we do have patrons and we're really thankful for that. We have enough people on there that it pays for us hosting the podcast. So and then actually with the money from Patreon, we were able to buy Hannah's mic that she's using, which is awesome.
You can hear me now.
Yeah. So so yeah, we really appreciate that. And we want people to realize that like when we have people giving us money via Patreon, that goes back into the podcast. So
Yeah. Every cent we've had goes straight back into the podcast.
Yeah. So if you like the podcast, you want to see us be able to do more and improve over time, then definitely check us out under there. And we do special stuff over there. So there's a benefit for both of us, you know what I'm saying? But again, thanks for tuning in this week, guys. We're sorry for the absence. Can't say it won't happen again, but we're going to try our best to keep it consistent.
Yep.
So
What's that, Tom Brandon?
Spooky noises.
Spooky noises. Ooh.
Meth hogs.